Okay, I'll have to unmute myself. Yeah. And am I loud and clear?
Perfect. So we are beginning now.
Thank
Namaskar, my dear friends. I'm here again welcoming you to another session of the essence of life and growth. And today our speaker, our guest is a renowned journalist, a person I have known for decades now, a person I have cherished for his journalism, for his commitment to journalism, the investigative journalism, which is also referred to. And now he's not only a journalist, but also the editor representing India for a news agency called the Central European News Agency, on the essence of life and growth. Before I begin, I would like to give you a brief disclaimer that we are observing all the norms and nomenclatures as advised by the Ministry of Home Affairs for conducting all the meeting to keep it on a secure platform. We would be keeping all your audios and videos off throughout this session. You are requested to kindly observe this restriction till the end when the question answer session is opened up for people to ask questions. Till that time, I request you to kindly keep your audios and videos off, after which you are welcome to open your videos and we will then open up your audios or raise your hands, whichever way you like. I would also like to point out as a disclaimer that the views represented here are those views of the speaker as well as the moderator, and they have no bearing on the institutions we represent. These are our personal perspectives. The prime objective of inducing essence of life and growth was to bring out the positivity in life from the life experiences of people who have spent decades, at least about 4 to 5 decades, working, learning, growing, and what have they understood of their own life from their personal experiences and growth. And that is the prime objective, to bring in positivity, to bring in new structures in the air from the understanding of life, having seen ups and downs in personal life, in professional life, in economies, domestic as well as global. So from that, I bring you a person who has not only been analyzing and understanding life, but also has been analyzing economies and structures for various organizations like the Bloomberg TV, the India TV, the News 18, the Outlook. You can see it's a both print and television media. And now he is with an agency, which is the Central European News Agency, based, headquartered out of Austria. He is the India editor, the country head for the agency represented here. So I will now go to Shantanu, but otherwise I know he's a very humane person, a person with a lot of feelings, lot of compassion. And that's why I thought, when I wanted to bring in to see who I could bring from the field of journalism, as I have Shantanu, you would know, I brought in people from different walks of life. I brought in actors, Miss World, I brought in professors, directors, doctors. So I wanted to have someone from the field of journalism, and I thought you would be the right person to introduce this particular aspect, given that you have this wide perspective. I will now just be moving on to you in just a second. But before I go on to you, Shantanu, I would like, and before we begin the interview which I have for about half an hour, I would request if you could give a snapshot, an understanding of life as it has changed from the very small childhood of your own self, from what you are today, from a person who was 7, 8 years of age, a person who became a teen, a person who became went to college, then studied education, then started working in all these different kinds of organizations, different environments, different work spheres. How have you seen the understanding of life, or the perception of life, or the desires you had from life change from time to time to us to understand your own personal understanding? If then I will certainly begin with the questions I have in my hand for you.
Thank you, Aman. I'm very pleased to be here. I don't know whether I can remember all that has happened in my life, but there is a deep sense of feeling that, I was born in Jaipur and brought up in Delhi, and I stayed with my parents. My father was just a humble clerk in Burma Shell, which eventually turned into Bharat Petroleum, and sooner or later, I mean, I was with Cambridge School, and then I was shifted to a Bengali medium school where, presumably because of economic reasons. So I think, Aman, I mean, what I wish to tell you and some of your people who have just joined in, I think life has taught me one important lesson, that everywhere, I mean, you are there, whatever you are doing, the essence of life and growth cannot happen in isolation. I think it has to happen with people around you, and they must be a part of your journey. I say it at a very, very strange time when I've just lost my brother 2 months ago and my sister-in-law 5 months ago. My parents are dead. I'm just with my family, my wife. My daughter is in Mumbai. She works for Tata Trusts. And about a week ago, 10 days ago, we again lost a very, very close friend. She died of cancer. But the way we all went around, surrounded the boy who lost his wife, kept on calling his daughter, his son, asking them what exactly is required in the absence of the mother. I think that gave me a great feeling, because at the end of the day, it taught me once again the essence of life, what I had learned in school and in college and in journalism when I started my career way back in 1982 as a young, a little foolish perhaps, a sub-editor or a copy editor with the UNI, which of course UNI is not in great shape these days. But once again, the lessons were very important. I'll narrate a quick story.
Please.
Yeah, we were on the night duty of UNI, and I think Mrinal Sen won the Golden Bear in Berlin for his movie Akale Shandane, In the Search of Famine. And like typical of AP, the Associated Press, they buried the news way down. And I mean, we could not make out that Mrinal Sen has won it. And Reuters copy, which was not routed through UNI, but routed through PTI, got into the papers. So we had a logbook, and if you had a problem, we would go and write in the logbook. So I went and wrote, I mean, what kind of nonsense is AP doing? How could they ignore the Indian guys who's won this Golden Bear? The next day, the man on the night duty got a memo because he had missed the news. I still remember the gentleman who took me out for a coffee. UNI coffee was very legendary. Right behind our office, there was a South Indian coffee store. So he told me, always remember, journalists are like cops. You live for them, they live for you. The door swings both ways. So never write down your complaints in a piece of paper. Just quietly go and tell the chief editor that, I mean, how could we miss it? And let him do the investigation. But your note actually triggered an outcry. And this boy who had just joined the office about a year ago, he had to be served with a memo. That means one of his promotions would get reduced. That incident remained with me forever. And I always remember now, every time I've seen a journalist in distress, I have gone out of my way to help him. As you know, Aman, we are, as a profession, as a bunch of professionals, we are going through one of our worst crises. Editors are losing jobs, newspapers are folding up, magazines are dying, portals are crashing out. People are losing jobs like left, right, and center. I mean, I think journalists today are worse than migrant laborers, the way they are losing their jobs. But every time I find an opportunity, I reach out to people. I mean, I think essence of life is this, that if you are living, somebody else also needs to live. And that's important, Aman. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. But I would also like if you could highlight a little bit about, you know, from your childhood to where you grew, how did this perception of life in your own understanding change? You know,
yes. I understand.
It was never the same as you see today.
No, it was never the same. I studied in Raisina Bengali school, a peculiar school, which had among its classmates Pranab Mukherjee's wife, the Punjab National Bank chairman, the State Bank of India chairperson. They're all from Raisina Bengali school. All of them. Deepak Chatterjee, who was the Commerce Secretary, they're from Raisina Bengali school. Or all of them. Pranab Mukherjee's brother-in-law, who was my classmate. I think what we actually learned during my school was values. Essence of life was built on values, that your parents may not be very rich, but they have richer ambitions, and that's why they brought you to this school. This school may not be like a St. Columbus or a modern or a Delhi public school, our next door St. Thomas School for girls, or the Convent of Jesus and Mary for girls. They were flashy students and they came in big cars and we would go in buses. It always stayed with me. And when my daughter started going to school in DPS east of Kailash, that short distance, I encouraged her to take the school bus.
True.
And when she grew up to DPS, Mathura Road, RK Puram, very rarely we went and dropped her in our car. I think those basic values are very important, Aman. And as we grow in school, in college, I don't think this college memory stayed with me much. What was there very strongly was the school memories. And I always kept on going back to my school to do whatever I could, maybe buying computers, trying to get an electronic notice board, a blackboard and all of that, funding students, funding poor students. I kept on going back to the schools. I think schools was a great influence on my life and it shaped my life that way. Otherwise, I probably would have become, as many people say, that Delhi is a peculiar city. It lives on its wheels. The bigger the car you have, the bigger is your status. And you can drive it on people in the footpath and you can be happy about it. But I think those values, the essence of life, the way I learned from my school was extremely important.
Thank you for that insight. Yes. Now you did outline values being a very important factor as one of the essentials. What could be the other factors which you feel are key factors for essence of life and growth?
Economic. I think economy is very important. The essence of life, the way India has grown and developed, some of its great institutions. And I feel very sad when I see those very great institutions crumbling because of corruption, crumbling because of dubious activities of politicians or bureaucrats. It really bothers me. I mean, one day, there was a time when I would always fly on Kingfisher. It was a matter of pride for me. Today, when I look at that and I feel what could have possibly gone wrong with that airline or with that company, time and again, many more people have created companies and they have done great jobs, and eventually those companies went into trouble and all of that. You remember, I wrote that book called Target. It was about Jignesh Shah and his company and how he suffered and everything went out of his hands. I think that's what pains me. I mean, it would be great if tomorrow, one day, you can call 4 industrialists and ask them what they would do to try and push jobs, try and push growth at a time when everybody is so worried about their living, their livelihood. I think that is very important. So economy is something that is always at the back of my mind. Aman.
Yes, I agree with you. This livelihood component is very critical unless the very basic needs get satisfied. And the Maslow's need of hierarchy also talks about it when we study organization behavior.
Absolutely.
Those needs and then move forward. You know, there are these interesting sayings which I keep reading now and then in news and newspapers and the spirituality. One of them said, invest in yourself to induce growth and happiness. Do you feel that's right, or it should be something else?
Well, I think that's a nice line. It's almost like saying when somebody close to you is dead, look within. But you know, Aman, every time I look within, I can see the buttons of my shirt. I can't see anything else. So, you know, investing in yourself is a great line, but you still need people to back you so that you can invest in yourself.
True.
Investing is interesting, investing is lively, investing is great. But as you invest along in yourself, you also have to remember that the world is changing. Today at the age of 48, you are thinking of retirement. You know, when you are 50, you are actually useless for your company. So then, I mean, I guess everyone, when they go into a college, they should be told that you have exactly 15 or 20 years of jobs. But they're not told that. And you know why the problem happens is when around 50, when the pressure starts coming from HR managers, people feel what wrong they have done. I mean, I think that is one thing, or that is something maybe people like you can guide many more people and bring people to table and tell them that how they should prepare, how they should plan their life. It's not very easy. It is very difficult because for my profession, journalists don't have great savings. And you know, so that becomes a problem. Yes, I think that's a great line you say, that you must invest in yourself. People do invest in themselves, but it would be great if people around them can do some great hand holding, and that's important. Aman.
True, I agree with you. You know, Shantanu, even teachers, as a matter of fact, have no savings. And in fact, it is not only for India, although an American professor may be getting better salary. But if you really look at the wage, average wage of a professor or a teacher anywhere around the world, it is one of the least paid professions. But we always say on the other side that, you know, you live and contribute to the last breath. Most of my professors, Professor Kantisru, Professor A.L. Naga, I remember all of them, Professor P.K. Ghosh, who are both of them all over the vice chancellors, directors of various universities, who taught me. I remember them very well, you know, till the last breath, like Abdul Kalam Azad. He's a scientist. On the last breath, he was teaching. So I have had stories of people telling me that they actually went on teaching till the last breath. And that's what I told to my mother, who retired recently about 3-4 years back. And then she took a break. She was with University of Delhi as a principal of a government college, of Motilal Nehru College. And then she was retiring from there, and she says, I want to take a break now. I have been working because my mother used to bail, and I've been working from 13 years of my age. And I want to take a break now. I said, take a break. 1 month, 2 months, you come back, start doing research, do something. Because you only stop, you only retire with your last breath. Until that time, you must keep contributing to life, whether you add in yourself or you add in people's life. So, you know, as a concept, so whenever you feel that journalism has no more place for you, you know where to come.
I fully agree to you. I mean, I think that's a great line. It's a great line that when you know journalism has nothing to offer, you must know when to cross the thin red line.
True.
Journalists need to be very bold, and they need to realize that news today, the long format of news is actually dying.
Correct.
And about 15 years ago, the Straits Times of Singapore planned on their digital format so well that today you can't read the paper unless you are paying for it.
Correct.
And here we are, the world's second largest nation. We still don't have the media institutions in right perspective, right place. Correct. I think we need to think about those issues. I think you were talking about essence of life. I think essence of life, I mean, I keep repeating myself that every time a death occurs in the family, I keep thinking, how come that person died so young? What went wrong? Was it wrong about the doctors? Was it wrong in terms of treatment? I think essence of life has to be about human lives also.
True.
I think it has to be in a country where people really don't know how to save. The market keep crashing and markets are violated by violators. People must know where to put their money. And the fact that buying gold and buying real estate is not the answer. And it's also LIC is also not the answer. But the alternatives which are coming in, they need to give me the confidence. They should not be like the real estate builders who show me a dream with my favorite cricketer Mahendra Singh Dhoni standing, and 5 years down the line, I see there is no building. So I think these are very important issues. Life, essence of life, also must help me believe that what I am doing is right.
I agree. From what I understand, I wanted to also get your mind on, is life inherently unpredictable and insecure?
Life can be insecure. Life can be unpredictable, but those are challenges you face as a man, you face as a woman. If there are challenges, so let there be challenges. Life can be unpredictable. My friends working in Times of India don't know if tomorrow they will lose their job. Maybe mentally they are getting ready to try and do something so that the unpredictable does not hit them. Yes, life is also unfair at times.
Correct.
But then there are certain things only you can hold, and the rest, like I do, I leave in the hands of the God.
True.
I sincerely believe that as a human being, there is an afterlife, and I have no control on that. If something happens to me, my wife should pick up the baton and start running. True. And that's it. Life is a cycle. Like pigeons at the ghats of Varanasi, if you see, they go in a flock and they come back. So that's the cycle of life. So yes, of course it is unpredictable, but it's up to us how to handle it. Aman.
True. Thank you. We live in times of uncertainties, and this is not, Shantanu, as you must have seen in your career, uncertainties have prevailed not because of pandemic per se, but always. Sometimes it's because of unemployment, sometimes slowdown, sometimes war, sometimes trade problems, sometimes civil wars in economies, different countries, different problems, different situations, always uncertainties. We try and structure certainties. But my issue is not about certainty. I would like to know your perspective on how does one go about celebrating life in these times of uncertainties, which we live for over 100 years now?
By sharing your joys with others.
Yes.
I celebrate my life every day. For me, every day is a new day. I keep wondering, keep thinking, what can I do so that one person or maybe two persons, they can be happy. You don't live for yourself, Aman. You live for others, and others live for you. Now, I always think about these things. I mean, I'll narrate a small incident today. It happened right today. It happened in the afternoon, and I mean, I was almost I'm breaking up in tears. I called up the kids of my friend who lost his wife, and I said, do you want Starbucks coffee? So the daughter said, anytime, uncle, anytime. And suddenly the son came from behind probably, and he said, uncle, please send a pizza also. Now, आप इसका प्यार देखिए, उसका दिल देखिए, उसने प्यार से मांग लिया जो चीज which he would have asked his mother. अब माँ तो नहीं रही. तो मैंने quietly अपने daughter को बोला, I'm not very tech savvy, that all those apps and all to download and order, I can't handle it. Within 10 minutes, my daughter had ordered coffee, pizza, carrot cakes, everything. Once those boxes reached their home, the son messaged saying, we are over the moon. So today I've done my karma, Aman. My karma is not about writing stories, investigating. That's routine. That's I'm meant to do. That's my job.
Yes.
My karma is that I think about my friends, that they should live well. I should always try and go out of my way to try and see people around me. How can I improve their life, their essence of life? And this is very important, and this is extremely vital. If a man lives only for himself or herself, sooner or later, you will see you will get sucked into a dangerous situation where only liquor can help you, nothing else.
True.
I mean, you'll pick up the bottle and you'll sit, watch Netflix and Amazon Prime. You won't be able to read. But
True.
if I, throughout the day, do 5, 6 things.
True.
I raise money for Calcutta flood victims. I raise money for the college street booksellers. I try and send some pizza to someone. I go and tell somebody that I've filed 2 copies. Have a look at those stories. I've done my day.
True.
And once I finish my prayers in the evening, I keep thinking about what could I do tomorrow. So I think life, even if it's unpredictable, pushes insecurities at time, you will have to make the most of it.
True.
Every day I can't be rich.
True.
There will be days when I'll be poor, Aman. Over to you.
Yeah, you know, you talked about security, the sense of security. Even when you talked about the essence in the beginning, when you talked about the values and the economic livelihood factors, which are critical. Do you think these factors, because most of my speakers have in the past spoken about spirituality, have spoken about soul consciousness, have spoken about meditation. They have outlined these factors as being key factors for inducing happiness or structure. Do you think they help?
You know, I'm a very straightforward guy. Whatever comes to my mind, I say. I'm a very deeply spiritual person. I've been initiated by the Ramakrishna Mission in 1987, when I got married. And the local head here in Delhi, Parganj, Swami, I think Gokula Ananda Maharaj, told me that, you know, instead of gallivanting around and looking for a beer outlet, you spend some time with the gods also. I said, okay, sir, I'll come. So I was initiated. My guru is dead. But every time I've gone to a holy place, I have looked at God for 10 minutes. I've looked at people for 80 minutes. Or maybe 50 minutes for a full 1 hour. I've tried and helped leprosy patients outside the Pashupatinath temple. In the Varanasi, the ghats of Varanasi, I met a female dome and spent hours with her, trying to ask about life. How could she sit in that place, the stench of flesh being burning and all of that? I thought those were great lessons for me. There are times when I have gone to the Haji Ali and I've told those guys, whatever money I have in my pocket, rather buying a chadar for Haji Ali, I would give it to you all and feed them biryani, all those beggars who are sitting there. I get great fun in doing that. I am, of course, spiritual. I pray for people, pray for even those who have died. And once those people who have died would fill into my one palm and I would count about 20. Now I do it 10 times. So imagine how many people I have lost. So I think spirituality gives me great feeling that yes, I'm with the gods for some time. I sincerely wish if one day I could take the Kailash Mansarovar Jatra. Maybe one day I could go to Tibet or maybe meet a saint worshipping in the upper reaches of Himalayas so that I could understand what is life, what is death. I'm very interested about death. I want to research on that. I want to get people on a platform discussing death. So yes, spirituality helps tremendously. Aman.
How about soul consciousness and meditation?
Aman, those are very, very heavy things for me. I think I'm really soul consciousness and the inner soul and the inner spirit. These things go over my head.
Okay.
I believe.
I talk to you in a way simple. How do you see the next 6 months to a year shaping up?
I'm a born optimist, Aman. And I always believe I have faith in my government.
Yes.
I don't unnecessarily criticize my government because I don't depend on my government for my food.
Correct.
I depend on my government to give me great governance.
Correct.
I personally believe when the world is shaking, India can't stand like a rock. India will also shake. probably somewhere, if I'm a spiritual man, maybe the gods want it this way. They want some cleansing operation.
Mhm.
The spring cleaning is on.
Mhm.
I see India emerging out of this. I see more and more companies coming up, small companies looking at the big Indian market so that you can stop Chinese products flooding the market and killing the local market. I don't think the Indian shopkeepers will be worried about the big Walmart or the big shopping malls, because today COVID has even instilled a fear of death in the riches also. So the rich and the poor are on the same scale today. And that's a great lesson. So I sincerely believe smaller companies will come up. We may not see another Jamnagar happening, but I believe that there will be growth, and those growths will come from tier 2, tier 3 cities. Bharat will show India the way, unlike the other way, Aman.
Mhm. Mhm.
Over to you.
You know, you talked about growth. What should
Yeah.
be done to induce sustained growth with challenging opportunities which lie ahead of us? I see them as opportunities. They are challenges, but I always see them as opportunities. So, but how do we induce that sustained growth?
Indian companies should be encouraged to produce essentials that Indians use, rather trying to see how much they can export. Indian companies must realize if there is a problem in excavating coal, they need to move away and go to solar. Indian companies should also realize importing anything and everything will not work, because they have a huge market at home anyway.
True, true.
Global companies worry about markets. I don't worry. Indian companies should not worry about the markets, because in 2008, when the global crisis was happening and Lehman Brothers was getting crushed, I had gone for a course in Philadelphia, the Wharton School. And there once professor told me, you guys don't have to worry. China doesn't have to worry. You have a great market at home anyway. We look for other markets because our markets are saturated. So smaller Indian companies needs to be pushed so that they get into the market and try producing something that generates employment and that generate products which actually are to be used by Indians. I hope I'm not making a political statement here or the Swarajya and all of that. I'm merely saying, as Indians, we need to unite, stand together, and start producing things which for years we have depended on other countries. I mean, even if it means if I have to promote Ayurvedic products, because that can be a great counter at the time of COVID, I must have an Ayurvedic hospital in every city. And
True.
someone must bankroll that venture. I should not go back to the government. So I think these are important things I keep remembering.
True.
Yeah.
Very, very well. I said we have 3 more questions for you, and before that, we open the house for people to ask questions.
Sure.
Yeah. So one of them is that I have been talking about happiness, which is very important in my understanding. Large number of nations are trying to introduce happiness index. Someone is trying to introduce the Ministry of Happiness. Someone is trying, even UAE. One of my students the other day told me that they have a Minister for Happiness. There's a ministry there. I remember in Finland or in Sweden, they had a Ministry of Loneliness. In UK, they have initiated this. Sarkozy gave the project to Amartya Sen to create an index for happiness there. So there is a lot of talk about happiness, which is there. In fact, I read one of the monks in one of the newspapers the other day who said, stop running. We need to stop running. We need to start thinking, doing things, not stop working, but stop running. That is running out of fear, running after stress, running from things like that. What do you think? You have seen governments perform. You have seen markets move up and down. You have seen intricacies of corporates, which as you highlighted in some of your books. We have had the pleasure of having you at the Institute to release the books, to present on your books and your research works and the way investigative journalism you have done. What is your understanding? What is that governments could do globally to induce growth and happy living? I know it's not a pill. It's not something which can be like a food.
I agree.
What can they do? in your opinion?
If you sincerely want the governments to push happiness, the governments must realize that they must initiate a great process so that the states start believing the center. The center should not be like the big bad wolf that it's coming to eat up the states.
Mm-hmm.
It should not be the case that only because one party is ruling in the center and a rival party is ruling in another state, that they should be at loggerheads. I think they all need to be together. I would have been I would have been extremely happy if people from Delhi would have taken in trucks or buses and would have landed up in the Sundarbans to say, we have come to help you. I think you reach out, they reach in. And happiness index or the state of happiness probably can work in smaller countries. Let's say the state of happiness works brilliantly in Bhutan.
Correct.
It works brilliantly in Finland. But I think a significant section of our people are a little difficult to handle. I'm not saying any one community. All communities have some apprehensions. They believe that they're not getting enough and the government is not doing anything. So I believe, why don't we start a great communication exercise where people should be extremely comfortable in dealing with the center and not be at loggerheads. I mean, I think that is very important and that is extremely vital. The hands must meet. Only then there could be a great opportunity. So I think that is important and that is very vital. So if that doesn't happen, bickerings will be there, disbelief will be there. And even if I go with an open arm, I may not be welcome. So first, let's open our door. Let the states open their door. Politicians should start interacting with politicians from other parties and go ahead and say, what is it we could do? We are just celebrating Eid. Come on, let's sit down and plan it. Let's do it.
True.
So I think people need to extend arms, they extend facilities so that this great divide between the center and the state needs to be stopped. The divide needs to be bridged. We need many more Mumbai sea links. Only then the cities will get connected.
True. I agree with you. But do you think it's because of some kind of trust deficit or trust not being there? Or you think it's just a structural problem?
Completely structural problem. I think there are states, like my state, Bengal, has been at loggerheads for the last 50 years.
Correct.
They have huge issues with the center.
True.
Now I think there are other states which, even if different government comes, the growth factor doesn't stop. They keep growing.
True.
So I think this is a structural issue, and this can be handled by ministers, bureaucrats, and also some public intellectuals like people like you. And they would say that, okay, fine, we will start a one-year course on happiness.
True.
That what is it that makes Indian happy? Is it, I mean, what is it? Jobs, daughter's wedding, more gold in home, liquor in fridge? What exactly makes Indians happy? So I think that is an important factor and a very vital factor.
Okay. Now, I think you outlined very clearly the important components, very difficult in a complex country like India. But you remind me of two incidents.
And that's important, Aman. You know, Aman, that's very important. Don't forget. I mean, I was with ESPN for a couple of years and I had no idea of cricket, honestly. I don't know what is a leg bye or what's a short sleep or a long sleep. I have no idea, but I just landed up in that job because I could travel across the world. In 2004, right after our World Cup loss in the finals against Australia, the Indian cricket team was going to Pakistan and all guys were getting excited, all journalists. And I could realize their main obsession with Pakistan was they could eat biryani whenever they wanted. So a couple of times I told people, I said, I mean, this obsession with biryani needs to end. Let's go out and meet people there. It is just a line the Britishers have drawn between us. Just we are crossing it over. We are taking a flight to Lahore. So let's see what people say. Saurav Ganguly was carrying a bat signed by Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And on that was written lines, Sirf match nahi, dil bhi jeetiye. And that's important, Aman.
Yes.
That's important. There should not be disbelief. There should be harmonious relationships. That's all I want to say. Aman.
No, I was saying that, you reminded me of two incidences in my own personal life also. I thought I would like to share them on if I have a minute or two here. Although it's not my program today, but still I thought I should. I remember we had the former Deputy Prime Minister of Poland and Finance Minister 3 times of Poland, Dr. Greg Kolotko, who is an honorary professor with us now for a long time. Now, this gentleman was visiting us while he was the Deputy Prime Minister and addressed our students way back in 1995 or 96, if I remember correctly. And then I took him out to just show him a little bit of the city. I had the fortune I could stay with him, and I went around apart from his security. And then, he said very interestingly, he says, Aman, I see these people on the street. They don't have clothes, they sleep on the street, but they are happy. When I go to some of the developed countries, I see people wearing very flashy dresses and flashy watches and eyeglasses and things like that. They may be wearing some of them, but they are not happy. And that's something, as an Indian, I did not notice, but then, as a foreigner, he did. That was an interesting thing which was there. So, it is difficult, as you rightly said, to identify what is that which defines happiness for different people across, whether it is gold or liquor in the fridge, or it is food, or what exactly it is per se. And I think it's important. And that's why we started this particular series called The Essence of Life and Growth, to understand that and maybe induce that as part of our course in due course. Also, the other thing which I remember was when I was invited in Denmark to address the Danish Parliament, the Prime Minister's, later on his wife took me around, and she was the head of the opposition party. And they were married to each other, both the Prime Minister and the head of the opposition party. So she took me around the parliament and everything, and then she told me, actually, he's my husband. They are husband and wife, but otherwise, their thinking is completely apart because they represent different parties altogether. Unlike India, most countries have 2 major parties. In India, you have multiple parties here, almost 600 plus parties. But in large number of countries, 2, 3, 4, 5 parties are there. So it was interesting that how, it's important what you said, that government need to work together. They need to sit down together. Like journalists I have seen in the press club, they sit down together irrespective of which media they represent. They're sitting together, drinking, chatting, talking. And I think that's very important in life, which you very simply outline. My last 2 questions, and before I end, and I open in the house for others, please raise up your hand so that you can ask your questions and I can open the questions to you. One is that, you have seen economics, you have seen in business journalism, you've been there, you've seen business houses. IMF projected a growth rate of about 1.9% for 2020. That is January-December 2020. And then it said 7.4% for 2021, January-December 2021. That's calendar year for both years. Other agencies have projected anywhere between 1.7 to 4% for current year. Now, given the potential of this country, and the way you have seen business go, and now you represent an agency which is outside India, international agency, like Reuters. What is your perspective? Do you think these numbers are conservative, having known the potential we have, the youth population being around 28, the kind of growth we are seeing? Do you think it is conservative, or do you think they are optimistic in nature?
Well, I think some of the numbers are indeed optimistic, but I have never taken rating agencies and the big 4 chartered firms seriously. If that was the case, the financial scandals in this country wouldn't have happened. It's like the astrologers who say you will live for 80 years and someone dies in a year and a half. Mm-hmm. India's vastness, India's great markets, works like an insulin to a sugar patient, because they know that markets will be able to absorb the crisis. At a time when global banking crisis was crumbling and crushing many countries, including the United States, India remained isolated. So I think some figures are optimistic, and I think growth will happen, hopefully by the end of this year. First, the fear needs to go out, and only then people will be able to look at new avenues of businesses, new avenues of growth.
Thank you. My last question. What's your advice to the youth and the students in current times, especially because of two factors? One is that there is this problem of plenty. When I say problem of plenty, when I landed up in the US almost about 20, 30 years back, 25 years back, I saw when I went to the market to buy bread, the gentleman moved me to a rack which had 50 kinds of bread, and I did not know which is my bread. Similarly, we have this Internet of Things, the flux of products being survived, services being provided to us, which is so immense now. Television channel, news, as you see, so many of them. You know, which one should I choose? Which one is mine? Which one has my perspective, what I'm looking for? It's so difficult. In these kind of difficult scenarios, apart from the uncertainties which we have been discussing so far, what will be your advice for the youth and the students?
The youth needs to be guided by their parents. They must know what they need to do. And like Indians have a fixation for white, and they keep buying those whiteness creams, parents have a fixation for IIT, IIM, management schools and all that. Once I told my daughter, I'm okay with you marrying anyone. Why not a poet? Won't that be great? He would write great poetry. So my friends were completely shocked. So all I'm saying is, let students do what they wish to do. If somebody wants to be a carpenter, let him be a carpenter and design some great furniture. This free-flowing ideas is extremely important from school and in college. I can only talk about my profession. We have more than 200 journalism institutes in this country. None of them have steady faculty members. So if you don't have steady faculty members, when you don't teach the vagaries of breaking news and how it can drive you nuts, what are you producing? So they once told me that we are producing 360-degree journalists. And I was very surprised. I said, what is a 360-degree journalist? He said he can shoot, he can edit, he can anchor, he can report. I said, you're making him a jack of all trades. It doesn't really help. So let the youth of the country think through their heart. Only yesterday, I gifted a cake to a friend's son and wrote on top of that, don't study. He was extremely excited. He took a picture and sent it to all his friends. And they said, that's a great cake. Why don't we get one more cake saying don't study at all? Do you realize what they're actually thinking? They are bloody tired of their studies. So institutes which are focused will always guide students to greater heights. Aman.
Thank you very much, Shantanu, for that insight. I will now open the house for questions to people. They can open up their videos, or they can, raise their hands, and we will open their audios to ask questions. I did see some people open up their videos in between. I now open the house to people. I remember Mr. Yashpal Singh was there. I see Ranbir Bhattacharya. Just a second, sir. I will just open up your video. Kindly introduce yourself, and then from where you are, what you do, and then you may kindly ask a question. Kindly open up your video, sir. Hello.
রণবীর খালি গায়ে বসে আছো কি?
Mr. Ranbir.
I think he's asking for a shirt from his mother. So let's wait. If he gets a shirt, that'll be nice. I think given the humidity in Kolkata, maybe he was without a shirt.
India, half of the population doesn't have clothes on their chest. I remember when I was traveling in Pisa, invited to deliver a cake, and I went around, I was very saddened by the fact that is to rape on. Yes. And then it's the problem which is there in large part of villages in Pisa. Women don't have cigarettes. So, you know, and in any case, farmers in India don't do anything other.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree. I fully agree.
We are not in the Western country, no problem. As long as you're not offending someone, it's fine.
Anyone else? So Ranbir Bhattacharya.
You opened the video earlier. Mr.
Yeah, he's there. I can see him.
Oh, he's there. Very good.
He's there. I can see him on my screen. Oh,
very good. Please,
yes, sir.
And then ask a question.
Sir, I am a writer based in Kolkata, and I have a question for Shantanu sir. Sir, how do we define success in life?
Something that gives you peace of mind. For me, my success today was to deliver pizza and coffee and some cakes, carrot cakes to a friend's son and daughter who lost their mother. That's my success today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So I think whatever pleases you is very important.
True. Spoken from the heart. Anyone else, please, who would like to ask a question here? I see Debarati Das.
Monica?
Debarati, would you like to ask a question? I did see some hands before, but I don't see them here. Just a second. Yes, I see more. Yeah, Mr. Sarvari Raja, if you can kindly introduce yourself and then ask your question, please.
Hello.
Yes, please. We can't see you. Maybe there's light. No problem. Go ahead, please.
Okay. My name is Sadar Raja. Hello.
So,
yeah, we can hear you.
From?
Hello.
Mr. Raja, go ahead. We can hear you.
Hello.
We can hear you, Mr. Raja. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Sadar Raja.
Yes.
I am working from a private college, Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
I asking one question. Why India struggle for distributing money for very poor peoples? Actually, we are open to strengthen plans or etc. Why this problem?
Aman, you want me to take the question or will you take the question?
You go ahead. It's your show today.
Okay. Mr. Raja.
It is not a controversy.
No, don't worry. I mean, I'll answer you.
Okay, this is my question. Why India struggle for distributing money for poor people?
India will always struggle, Mr. Raja, whenever it comes to distribution of money or relief for the poor people. The distribution mechanism of any government can never be foolproof. Because at the one hand, the money will go out. But at the end, on the other hand, the people who are distributing it, if it's banks, financial institutions, Grameen banks, local panchayats, there are certain layers of corruption that will always come in.
Oh, yes.
So even if I have a great idea in mind and I want the people of India to benefit, and I'm sending tons and tons of rice to certain area, it all depends on the last mile connectivity. Who is distributing it? Are they getting the cash that is meant for them? Once Rajiv Gandhi had said, that the poor only gets 5 paisa out of 1 rupee and 95 paisa goes to the middleman. I think the problem still exists. and it will take a Herculean task for a government to change it. I don't think it will happen overnight. It is sad, it is unfortunate, but it will continue. Maybe another 10 years, you will see certain changes where people will directly pick up money and they don't have to go to any mechanism. So I think that is important.
True. Just to add to what Shantanu said, you know, I work with the World Bank in Washington, D.C. And just outside the World Bank building, we had beggars. So when we look at a developed country like United States, where everyone thinks here, looking at Hollywood movies, that everything is very glossy and nice, you will be surprised it is so much in pain which is there. And we can see the kind of pain which is being shed up because of the deaths which recently took place. My dear friends, in Washington, D.C., 3/4 of Washington, D.C. is unsafe zone. Only 1/4 of the whole capital city, Washington, D.C. is considered to be a safe zone. When I was looking for an apartment for myself, wanting to move out of the World Bank IMF hotel, which was very heavily paid and priced. That's an important component. And then we had a professor who came, who worked on a work on money laundering, because the Money Laundering Act in India is because of us. The Parliament of India consulted us and created that act.
Yes, yes.
That particular lady did a work at IMF, and she said the projects which came to developing countries, for 100 rupee project, there was a kickback given. So about 27% was actually kickback. Now to replenish that 27%, a further fund was given out by IMF and was taken by these countries. And then there was another kickback given. So it is not a poor man or a only government distribution, even international agencies, governments, they have this problem where monies do not reach the end, as Shantanu said. So to think, and thirdly, very important, I would like to point out, Venezuela as a country. I don't know if you've heard of it, but many Miss Worlds have come out of Venezuela. Was one of the very richest countries because of oil. At one time, the president of Venezuela said, stop working. We have so much money, you can sit and eat and enjoy. People don't need to work. They started distributing money for free. And today, it is a bankrupt country because people don't want to work. Do we want to land up into that kind of scenario where people keep getting money and have no? Money should be there to support when they need it. Should be there to empower when we need it. Should be there to facilitate our functionality, whether it is education loan or housing loan or whatever. But it must not be like a cripple, like a stretcher, which is going to be there for the rest of our life. And I think that's very important for us to understand that when we take with a begging bowl or a hand, it must not become a habit, which it becomes for many people around the world, and even including this country. So it's important what John F. Kennedy said. Don't ask what the nation can do for you. Ask what you can do for the nation. And let me tell you, you will find the fruits going forward. I have Ms. Urmi Katari. I had one more person, Yashpal Singh, I'll open up. But I have Urmi Katari. You can kindly ask your question. Introduce yourself and then please ask your question. Katari, I pronounced your last name wrong. Sorry.
So my question is with sir. So when we are talking about Indian journalism, so these days we are always looking on the news channels. We always see some negative news. Of course, it's very difficult here in India to come out of something because we have a lot of issues like poverty and the secularism and all those things. Now, when we are talking about being positive and then so now when we are talking about being positive and then growing in life, so when I look at journalism and Indian media house, so if they start showing something positive rather than showing the different incidents that are happening in the different part of the country, so will that even contribute a little of it towards growth of our country? So I would not want to mention any of the news anchor over here, but I have seen a lot of the prime news channels. Those are always debating on something that's negative that's happening in the country, just to increase their TRP or whatever it is. But if they start on something that's positive that's happening in the country, then will that even contribute a little bit? Will that motivate people? So that's what my question is. So what is your take on that?
So,
Yes,
you want me to take this question?
yes, Shantanu.
Okay, good. I think all
I'm
arrows are coming at me. Okay.
You're the main guy.
You must remember one thing very clearly. I don't think any Indian news channel can deliver positive news. They can only deliver news, number one. You control your eyes, your ears, your nose. So you know how to control the remote of your television. If you don't like Republic, which you don't want to say here, try and go to BBC and watch world news. What is positive news? In my 35 years of profession, I've only chased news. Let's say babies being sold in cardboard boxes in Bengal, or a female dome in Varanasi. You see it both ways. You say, oh my God, you are chasing those stories. So what should I chase? The Ganges is beautiful and you can take a boat ride with your wife. I think we'll always chase news. The idea of spreading positivity is more for people of this country. Journalists in this country rarely follow any guidelines, and that's a problem. The press council is not a very effective organization in controlling these journalists. We don't have a Pulitzer Award here. We have that Ramnath Goenka Award, which I have also won for a completely strange reason. I mean, I scooped the coal scam in 2011. They gave me the award for writing on cricket. So, I mean, you can make out, and you really don't know what they do. But anyway, it was a great award, and 1 lakh rupee came into my bank. My wife was happy. Yeah, a lot of money.
The ceremony.
So I think people need to be positive.
Yes.
People need to spread positivity. People need to do interesting things and nice things that make them happy and make their surroundings happy. Barely 15 minutes ago, I narrated to Aman how a very close friend's wife died at 51 years of age. And her daughter came back from USA, leaving her job, and her son, who was going into college. And they were insisting that they would eat a pizza and some cold coffee from Starbucks. And I quietly sent those to them. And I again sent that today because I believe that that's my way of spreading positivity. They must be missing their mother who would agree to their demands. So why don't I do it? You only can spread positivity. Don't depend on a journalist to spread positivity. I mean, my daughter is not even a journalist. She's into social work. She works for the Tata Trust. She doesn't want to become a journalist. I understand that there are severe flaws in journalism. But what can we do? We can't produce a New York Times here. We can't do a Washington Post here. No Indian agency will be as independent as Reuters. So that's a flaw of the country. So let's live with it. Maybe in 10 years' time, maybe when I grow old and you grow more brighter, maybe things will change and people will actually chase news for its truthfulness rather for its positivity. I hope I've answered your query.
Yes, thank you. I think it's important. What Shantanu said is important. It's a question of our perspective of looking at it. You know, we are happy that we have done large number of research studies which international agencies have accepted. This KYC norms worldwide is based on our work. The IMF and World Bank accepted. Almost about 50 newspapers covered that news worldwide. All agencies covered it when we gave a press in Manila, and they were told bankers and all. So it was accepted. Our news, which we did, which actually brought in the Money Laundering Act, the Parliament of India consulted us, came as a front page news, first headline of Times of India and Hindustan Times for a research study published by IIF, which was there way back in the 90s. You know, it is those headlines, as Shantanu would know, are never for research studies, but there are scientific discoveries, and there are things come out. Like the Serum Institute is talking about this new vaccine which is coming up. Now there are that positive news, but you know what happens is we tend to look at all the negative news which come up. They catch our eyes faster, and that's why we end to not look at you know, when I started this program about 2 months back on Essence of Life and Growth, I have started reaching the Speaking Tree and others. They have been coming for decades now in newspaper. I never looked at them. But since I started this program and I've been thinking that direction, I wanted to bring positivity in here. So I started looking, I see a lot of positive news now coming forth. So I think, as Shantanu rightly said, it is that perspective that specs you to look at the thing, and that I think that brings in the positivity and not the news, as he rightly said. It's not good news or bad news. We make it good or bad in the way we look at it. That will be the last question, because I think it's already 1 hour now, and I requested Shantanu for 45 minutes. But
No, don't worry, I'm okay, I'm fine, there's no problem.
If there's any last question, otherwise we are closing the session for today. I think it will be the closing of the session now. I just need to do a small thing which I need to do about tomorrow and day after, and then we will close. Shantanu, just give me 1 second more. As we had Shantanu today, we were having this Essence of Life series which is going on. For next week, we have a European Parliament member, another journalist, a young journalist lady who is there, who's going to be there, and one more person who would be there, which I'm yet to finalize. Apart from that, we are launching some workshops which are going to be free. Almost all our webinars and workshops are free of cost. Every one of them is your welcome to attend and join. We are launching 2 new workshops. We had 2 this week. One was on how to do research and publish. Almost about 9 professors from around the world were there to address on it. We had Life with Corona, which was there, where we had again Dr. Kiran Bedi, the Governor, Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry, address it yesterday. And then it is going to go live on YouTube also from our side. And then we are planning to do 2 workshops on how to research, publish or perish on June 9th from 6 to 8, where we are going to finalize speakers and let you know by Monday or maybe on Sunday who they are, and make money in stock markets. How could you use to make money in stock markets? What can be done? Different perspectives. And apart from that, we have next week Trust, Our Core Human Value from Professor Deepak Vora. And then we have this particular tomorrow, and then we have Kashmir, the Journal Resumes, and the Economics of Pandemics by me, which is there again scheduled for the next week. I thought I should just brief you on this. With that, I would like to end the program for today. Thank you, Shantanu, for being with us, sharing your life. It's such a pleasure to welcome you, and look forward connecting and taking on your time on some of the other issues which I have in mind.
Lovely. Always with you. Always. Thank you. Thank you indeed. Namaste.
Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram, sir. Vande Mataram.